daughter Lindsay was just about the age of your granddaughter Catherine when I went to one of my first county conventions when I lived down in Georgia. And like your daughter, I had to run outside of the room several times when my daughter would start yelling stuff. But, you know, I tell you, being involved in county conventions and precinct work is really the bedrock of our success. And it will be the bedrock of our success coming in 2012, which is something I'll talk about briefly. But I'll tell you a little bit. I really do like, I'm glad Jeff mentioned the story about the prisoners. I'll tell you a little bit about transition because we are having fun. We are working hard. November 2nd, when we won the election. 2.5 weeks later, my good friend Paul Stam and I and 2 others were actually running for speaker. You know, it's always tough when you run. It's easier to run against a Democrat than it is against a fellow Republican that you really love. And that's the situation we found ourselves in. But we ran, and I was nominated to be the speaker. And that was a Saturday, so that following Monday, I requested a meeting with the Speaker's office to meet with them and to begin the process of transition. And at that time, it was November the 22nd, I said our goal is to, first, we're going to look at all your committees. We're probably going to eliminate a half of them or a third of them. And then once we figure out what committees we need, we're going to have them appointed. We're going to define our chairman. We're going to move the offices. We're going to do the seat assignments. We're going to be ready to go. The moment that I swear in, we're going to be ready to introduce bills and move. And they looked at me like, you silly boy with the horn growing out of your head. I mean, honestly. And there was this process of delay. I remember very vividly the speaker saying, Tom, you have time. You don't need to move this quickly. And I said, Speaker Hackney, we have a $3.7 billion deficit. We have people that can't pay their bills. We have a $20 billion budget that probably ought to be somewhere around $18 billion. And you say that we have time? And so we decided we were going to go ahead and move forward. So we did. And as we were going along, there were some funny things. And it really started heating up the last 2 weeks before we moved in. One of them was when a bill was running around. Let me digress for a minute because I need to recognize key people here. One, Martha, thank you for loaning Bill to us. You know, one of the reasons there's no way I would miss this meeting is I owe you all a huge thank you. Maybe starting with WB running last time around and laying the groundwork for us starting in March. I was roughly a part of that process. Then y'all loaned me Bill as my transition chief of staff and now senior policy advisor. And then this smart, energetic, and already proven to be pit bull on the floor that serves in the House caucus. And I'm enjoying getting to know Buck. Y'all have produced just an incredible, impressive group of people, and they're literally working with us to change North Carolina history. So I thank you for that. And Beanie, I also thank you for loaning Jeff out. Now, as we moved forward, we were about a week, it was 2 weeks out, and we were moving forward with the transition, and I had Charles Thomas, who was my seatmate when I was freshman term before last, and of course, Bill and I got to know each other because we sat next to each other for 2 years in Finance Committee. I brought in Charles, and we've got this young guy, he's the youngest person ever served in the legislature. His name is Justin Burr. He was first sworn in when he was 23 years old. He's just loving, truly a kid at a candy store. And is coming and volunteering, helping with transition. And when we were first going around trying to survey the offices, figure out where to move, it was Justin and Charles, my chief of staff, going into this one legislator's office. Her name is Deborah Wallace. And she was formerly the ACLU general counsel, very, very liberal person. Still hasn't accepted the fact that they're in the minority yet, nor has their assistant, her assistant. So they were walking around, they were trying to survey the offices, and they went into this one, and the lady just was costing. She got up, said, "What are you doing in my office?" And he said, "Well, ma'am, we're here, we're going to be moving things around." She said, "We don't even know if we're moving. We haven't even been told." And Justin looked at her and said, "Ma'am, with all due respect, you should have known that on November 2nd. That is a true story. And then so fast forward a week. This is true. This is the Thursday before the Wednesday we're going to be sworn in, and we're going around. And the chief, the building supervisor, nice guy, came in and said, you know, this is just not the way it's done. We've got a few hundred hours of overtime. It's going to take 3 or 4 weeks to get 115 offices moved. And that was the Thursday before the Wednesday we were going to be sworn in. And so that night, Justin and Charles were talking. They said, you know, we got to get some help, at least send them a note. So I sent a letter that evening to the supervisor. I said, look, if we've got to get 2 men in a truck, volunteers, I don't care what. I want this distraction out of our way. We've got a bill we want to pass out the first week. We cannot be moving people. Well, we'll get back with you. And I think it was Charles Thomas the next morning, my chief of staff said, Tom, what about prisoners? I said, boy, that works for me. And so we did call them, and we had them on the ground. This was the Monday before the Wednesday. We had them on the ground at 7:30 on that Monday morning. And in 48 hours, they moved 115 offices. And the last funny story was that same lady that had to be reminded on November 2nd, she had squatted on the Monday, so now it's Tuesday, and it's early in the morning, she's not even packed. Now, this is a week after we said you got to get going. My chief of staff was in there, and he said, "Ma'am, you need to move. I don't have time to pack these boxes. I'm just not going to do it." And he said, "Ma'am," and my chief of staff's 10 years in the military, so he's definitely got that mission focus. He said, "Ma'am, I understand your situation, but you need to understand mine. The speaker wants you moved today. So I'm not sure if you're going to pack these boxes so that we can move them. But what I am certain of is if you don't do that over the next 4 hours, there's going to be 15 prisoners in here with recycling bins to move you for you." And mysteriously, all those boxes got packed and we moved along. So all that really happened, but all that was done for a reason. It wasn't to be punitive. It was to do something just different. Every day that we're in session, the taxpayers have to pay $50,000. That's how much it costs to run that operation. It's amazing to me that for the 4 years that I've been there, we wasted the entire month of February and the last week of January doing what we did on our own nickel before we were ever sworn in. So that's why 24 hours after we were sworn in, we had our first bill in session, in committee. House Bill 2, the Healthcare Freedom Act. Now, we passed that bill, sent it down to the governor, she vetoed it. And they thought that was the end of it. They've also seriously underestimated us because they thought that when we brought up the bill for a vote yesterday, that we couldn't count votes. We knew exactly how many people were going to vote, and we knew exactly how many votes we were short. And we brought it up and put it down. We even had all of our people get disgusted and say all is lost, and led them to believe that that was it. And then today we introduced them to the concept that we actually know parliamentary procedure and the rules pretty well, and we're able to take that out of what was the unfavorable calendar. It will go into a committee, which now has the effect of us being able to hang that over their head for the entire session. How? Because every once in a while you'll have members not show up. And we've made it clear to them that if on any given day more than 7 of their members don't show up, we'll pass that veto. And the press asked me today, they said, "Well, don't you think that's playing games?" I said, "Are you telling me that playing games is telling the Democrats that they have to show up for work?" I said, "Spare me." So the fact of the matter is we knew exactly what we were doing. We actually used the technique that Democrats didn't even know existed, and we will use it every single time the governor vetoes a bill, and we will hold it over their heads until we get out of session. And she needs to understand it. I won't get into the details, but I do believe we also proved it's not politics as usual, and integrity counts something, and your word is your bond. Today, we had the opportunity to override a veto. But we were at a point where Speaker Hackney, who is, although he's as liberal as the day is long, he's a man of honor. And he came into my office after we had recessed. What we were basically doing is setting it up to see if they were going to go sleep and go home. And if they did, we were going to pass the bill. But the way we recessed because we had it all set up. And again, it looked like they were high-fiving. It was hysterical to watch yesterday because only a handful, all I ask my members here is just trust me, don't get upset, and watch our signals. So, honestly. And so we were set up. And there was a miscommunication at the end of recess where we didn't recess in a way that the minority leader was satisfied with, so he came out of my office. And he said, Tom, I believe I have your commitment that you won't introduce any other bills onto the calendar today. I said, absolutely, which was true. What we were about to do had nothing to do with introducing another bill. But as he was walking out, he said that I'm going to release my members because we'd gone into session, which meant that they were going home. At that moment, I had no doubt that there would not be enough people there to withstand the veto override. But the reality is he only did that because he trusted me. He would never have told me that. He trusted me. And if things had gone off just the way they were supposed to in chamber, I would not have had to make that statement. I would not have felt a debt of honesty or ethics. But I did. So I immediately went over to the caucus and said, guys, we can't do this. It's not the way we operate. It's the way the Democrats have operated for years. But it's not the way we want to operate. And to their credit, because I thought they were going to say, oh, no, it's our turn. But I did have somebody say, Tom, they've done that to us forever. Why wouldn't we do the same thing? I said, because sooner or later, you have to set a new standard for how you operate, a new standard for ethics. Why not let that be the people who said that last year when we were campaigning? And that's what we did. So it is important, and I think that is a new day. It's something that hasn't been done, and there are countless examples of where they've abused their authority. They've disrespected the people. They've disrespected property rights. They've not done the right thing as people trusted to lead this state, this wonderful state. And we're going to. Now I'll talk about a few policy issues that may be close to that will go beyond. I won't cover the ground that's already covered, but a few things in our agenda that matter. Eminent domain, constitutional amendment that will be on the ballot in 2012. We will protect property rights. Annexation moratorium. I'll come to annexation last because I know nobody in here is interested in that. With voter ID, we will begin to move voter ID next week. We will. Thank you. We've selected legislation that has been proven to withstand constitutional or Supreme Court decisions in both Indiana and Georgia. We expect it to pass. We don't expect it to be challenged, and if it is, they'll fail. And now we get to annexation. I know some people are wondering because the Senate sent over the moratorium bill, and I had it referred to rules. In fact, I had a gentleman here, where are you? Asked me there you are. Actually, I'm not sure if you just didn't park your truck in a ditch so you can catch me. What did you do that for, Speaker Tillis? I'll tell you why. Because I'm hoping that we can get reform done and done quickly. Now, I see a head shaking, but indulge me for a minute. We have a lot of things that we have to get done, and dealing with annexation is one of them. We have a number of things that we've got our members. We're working our members hard. And anytime you go into a battle, you want to make sure you have every one of your flanks covered. Yes. And we're operating on several different fronts right now, and we have to execute in a certain sequence. So what I did was send that annexation moratorium bill to rules, but at the same time, I know that House Bill 56 and 4 other bills that will be de-annexations have to move forward. We have to absolutely claw back ones that are about to go on the books and make it very clear that they're not going to, and I believe that they will. The other thing that I've done is I've set a deadline of April Fool's Day, and there's a reason for that. I've set a deadline of April Fool's Day for annexation reform to get introduced, to be satisfactory to the parties involved, and to move. And if it doesn't, then the moratorium bill will move very rapidly. But if we can get reform done and we can put this to bed, then I'd rather do that so that all the other things that we're doing can come off the table and we can just begin to focus on those things that we need to do and then get out of here in June. But make no mistake about it, we will either pass annexation reform that we believe is fair and respectful of property rights, or that moratorium will pass. And you can bank on one of those two things happening. Now, beyond getting the budget right, beyond some of the 100-day agenda items, things that we've talked about, we're not going to do a lot this year because it's going to take a lot to get that done. And we have to be focused. Now, this band that I have on is one that I've had 1,000 of. In fact, I think when I introduced or I did the briefings for our candidates last year, I had a band similar to this. And this band just says nothing but jobs and the economy. Because at the end of the day, we've got to focus on things to get our economy back on track. One of those is getting our budget balanced. And the other is to create an environment where private sector jobs get created. And I get this band, and again, Jeff knows this, when he went into the candidate orientation that I did, I said, guys, I want y'all to wear this. And I'm 50 years old. Back smoking cessation programs when I was younger were nothing but rubber bands around your wrist that you'd snap when you had the urge to smoke. And I told everybody, if you have the urge to think about something or propose a bill, first and foremost, that is not improving our economy, not creating jobs, you just snap that band until the feeling goes away, because we have to be disciplined. I'm in meeting all the time doing that. I do it. In fact, the other thing I will tell you is I've even got pigs with wings. Little glass pigs, they cost $3 each at Pier 1 Imports. I got 60 of them at my desk. And when I have people come in and I tell them about the strategy, pretty much what y'all heard tonight, you got to focus, you got to be disciplined. And people will come in and they'll hear that, and they've always got the yeah, but. I agree with that, Tom, but I've just got this one exception you need to deal with. And I'm wondering if you can help me. It could be an appropriation that they may need. It could be some sort of special thing that has nothing to do with that core mission. And I'll listen to them. I'll listen to them respectfully. A lot of times it could even be another member. I said, well, guys, there's only one thing left to do. And I go over and get the pig is Tilly. It's just my last name without an S on it. Tilly the pig. I put Tilly down on the desk. I said, there's only one thing we got to do. It's not flying yet. But you take one of these pigs back to your office, and when it starts flying, we'll change that priority. And I got 60 of them because we're going to need it. The point is, I try to use humor to communicate a serious subject. The primary reason that we got in trouble in Washington back last decade was we took our eye off the ball. We tried to be all things to all people. We didn't have the courage to look people in the eye and say, what you want is incredibly important. The problem is, it's not near as important as these devastating economic situation we have and unemployment that's through the roof. It's not that I'm judging the value of what you have. I'm simply saying we got to be honest about priorities, because if we're all things to all people, folks, we will be out of here in 2012. And you know what happens in 2013? Annexation reform goes the other way. Budget and spending goes the other way. Property rights issues get trampled on. We've got to work towards fulfilling our promises and then recognize that when you haven't been in power for 140 years, you've got a really long honey-do list to take care of. And it isn't going to get done in 6 months, which is how long we're going to be in session. So we need your patience. We need your belief in us. We need your patience. We need to engage so you can kind of understand why the priorities are what they are. But there are good reasons for them, and I'm convinced if we do it, you are looking at people that are members of a party. We are all members of a party that will lead this state for a decade, if not a generation. And I'm not sure if the Democrats can ever take it back. So the last thing I'll leave you with is redistricting. The most important reason for winning in this cycle is because we get to draw the districts. We get to draw the districts for Congress, and we get to draw the districts for the House and the Senate. And the beautiful, beautiful thing that the Republicans did for a brief period of time when they were in control back in the 90s is they took the governor out of the equation. In North Carolina, we're only one of a handful of states where the governor does not have veto authority over districts. So when we draw them, they're done. We'll draw fair districts, we'll draw legal districts, and if we do our job by satisfying or by staying focused on our legislative agenda, folks, we're here for a generation. And we can really do something for North Carolina that hasn't been done in modern times, really since the modern Republican Party came to be. So we hope you'll be patient. I hope you'll make sure that you work hard for these guys, and thank goodness for the people that have already worked hard for them. We need them here. We need them back. We need your help to get these issues done, get the budget balance, get annexation done, all the other things we talked about, and then load up for next year and the year after. We can do a great thing for this state. Thank you all for your support. Thank everybody out here for being at events like this. I hope we see a lot of you at the state convention. And God bless you all, and God bless North Carolina. Thank you.